Yeah. Okay. So Bear Fitness is my business. I have my own personal training, Pilates, and nutrition studio in Massachusetts. I'm just outside of Boston, north of Boston
Cool.
to be exact. And basically, I'm a new business. I opened up the months before the pandemic kicked in. I
Okay.
opened up officially in October of 2019, and for us, everything shut down in March. So, or at least for the world, that's when everything started coming to a screeching halt. And
Yes.
so here I am.
Very good.
Yeah.
What were you doing
hmm
before? Were you just like working for a big box gym type thing or
I,
different industry?
I, yes, I
Hmm.
actually have been in the industry for about 17 years, a little over 17 years now. So I started out what was the Sports Club LA in Boston. That's where it all began,
Right.
all of it. And then eventually it was bought out by Equinox.
Hmm.
And so yeah, I'm still at Equinox periodically, several hours throughout the week. But yeah, that's pretty much what I was doing, what I've been doing my entire career, personal training and Pilates. So
Nice. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I love that. It's such a great career too, right? Like that's a part of it. Is like if you're staying healthy and all those different things, it's pretty easy to get in this habit of working, 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 and then all of a sudden you're
yeah.
burnt out.
It's very easy to do because what it is essentially is you're taking care of other people. And
Yes.
people will always say, "Oh my God, you work out all the time. You work out every day. That's, that's wonderful. That's awesome." And they don't realize sometimes that the effort and work that you put into it, a number of hours, and
Hmm.
it's not as much time as you think for yourself, because you're giving to other people. You're trying to take care of them and keep them healthy because that's really what you're doing. You're taking care of other people.
Yes.
And, I know one of the biggest messages that I learned when I was being trained initially was to be very careful about the power that I wield because people are
Yes.
going to depend on me and they trust me. And I take that very seriously. I don't take it lightly at
Mhm.
all. And, it's almost like a superhero complex type of thing.
Yes, for
And, and,
sure.
and they're like, be careful how you wield your power. And you don't realize how valuable or important you are to people's lives. And I've learned that over
Right.
time. So, yeah,
Absolutely. And on a higher level, that can be, we see how we can feed our own egos with that, right? And,
right,
because that's, I mean, there's a good and a bad to that. Like we can make a massive difference in people's lives, or we
right.
can create such a massive dependency on us that we feel good about the fact that we're still helping them.
Right. It can go horribly wrong very quickly. But you got to stay
Yes.
humble because going to the point of what you were talking about earlier, and it's very easy to see other people and you see them move and do things and you think, "Oh my God, like what am I doing again?" Like,
Hmm.
and then you start to look at yourself and question yourself and your abilities and what you know and what you can do yourself, and you see someone else and you do something you don't do or you've never seen before, and you're like, oh my God, how is it that I don't know about
I
this?
don't
And
know that. Right.
and it's
Yes.
very humbling. But I think the best trainer, as far as I'm concerned, is the person who could admit that they don't know everything and
Hmm.
they're always open to learning, because as far as I'm concerned, this is a process where you're always learning and no one knows everything, and that's okay.
Yes,
That's okay.
absolutely. Hmm.
So,
And so you worked at Equinox, and I believe, who was it? PVE Design worked at Equinox as well.
mhm,
And there's so many different models. I remember when I did my personal trainer certification, and they took some time to talk about the different models, like, a big box gym, a subcontractor model, an independent contractor model, all these different places you
mhm.
can do your personal training, just like, do boot camps and not have a space, or you can work for whatever. And what's your thoughts and what's your reflections on working in a big box setting and now doing your own gig?
I what I will say is it was a big box gym that made me what I am today.
Yes.
Without that big box gym, there would be no Bare Fitness, and that's my truth. Um, I can't
Mm,
knock it at all. And what I will say is for someone who might be interested in this industry and learning, I think I think it's an awesome place to start. I almost
Yes.
kind of feel like it's the only way to start. Um,
Yes.
you know, you can wake up and have this passion. I'm going to be a personal trainer and do the thing. But, I've had some amazing people along the way be mentors and help me get to this point. And if it wasn't for them, I honestly, and if you happen to see this, I'm putting it out there, you know who you are. And because there are several of you, if it wasn't for people saying to me, well, what is it you want? What do you want to do? Like, where do you see yourself? And, those
Yes.
seem like cliche questions to ask, but they're
Hmm.
real.
Yes,
They're
they
real
are.
questions that have real answers. And if it wasn't for those people who literally helped me, mold me, and made me what I am today, I wouldn't be who I am and where I am today, and
Yes,
and and,
absolutely.
and I'm grateful. I'm still here and thriving. And, and also too, it's also a personal decision. You have to decide what you want. Do you want to be
Yes.
successful? And it's not an easy industry, so I'll be the first person to say that it is hard, and some days, excuse me, it's an ass kicking.
Hmm.
I'm saying it flat out, but you know what? I think when you decide that's what you want, and you have something to give, and you're very passionate about it, there's there's no there's no failure. It all comes
Right.
together.
Absolutely. And then layer into that just the business acumen that you get as well, because it's corporate America or it's corporate Canada. So not
Hmm.
only are you learning because there's so many different people around and learning from all your colleagues, you're also learning how to sell and how to promote and what to focus on and what not to focus on. And even that pressure of sales, sometimes we get too hard on big box gyms for being, oh, they're all about sales, but like sometimes that pressure is good for us to learn how we can deal with pressure, how we can handle things, how it is to have a sense of urgency to our work. There's a lot of good that can come out of those situations. So I like that there's a refreshing perspective on it instead of having the standard I hate on big box gyms, I'm going to work for myself perspective that comes out a lot.
No, I don't. I mean, again, I'm 17 years in this game. Is the reality of the situation. And I decided to open my own business not because I took issue with that. I got to the point where, I'll be frank, I'm getting older. You know
Right.
what I mean? And it's no longer about, they shaped me, they mold me, they made me what I am, period. And
Yes.
and it gets to the point where you decide, you kind of, in your mind as a professional, whatever it is that you do, you have ideas of where you want to go. You have goals, and
Hmm.
there are certain markers, you
Yes.
know, and that you have in place. And to be honest with you, I hit a lot of those markers. And so
Yes.
then you stop and you look around and you say, okay, so what next? What do I
What
want to do
next?
now?
Yes.
So it's really not about them. It's more inward reflection about what you want
Hmm.
for growth.
Yes.
And I'm a person,
That's a
I'm
good
all
thing.
about growth and evolution. So I'm like, so what does this mean now? Where do I go from here? And you think to yourself, okay, do I want to go into management? Do I want to go,
Hmm.
is that who I am? And, for me, that answer wasn't yes, because I wanted to keep working with the people. I wanted to have that
You
influence.
want to
And
be on the front lines.
I've heard so many people say to me, oh, I became a manager, but I miss that
Yes.
interaction.
Right.
And you could see it and you could feel it.
Hmm.
It's palpable. And you
Yes.
see them looking and you're like, oh, I remember when I did that, or I could do that, or when I had, you know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yeah.
And then that's when you find out what kind of person you are, what kind of trainer you are, or
Hmm.
where you want to be. And you realize, you're like, no, I want to dig in, I want my hands, I want to get in there and work this and work that. And if you're
Yes.
being true to yourself, you realize, that isn't necessarily that. It's hard to know what path to take. That's the point.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
and and
exactly.
and it's
I
trial
hear
and
you.
error. It really is.
Right. And I like that you said it like that because it is to know your own path because I've seen that happen where someone becomes they get promoted, and then they're like longingly looking from their desk at
Oh
people.
yeah, I've seen it so many
Right?
times. They're like, "Oh, I missed that. I remember when,
Yeah.
oh, how's," and then if they have to give up their people and give them on to someone else, they're like, "Oh,
Oh
how's
yeah.
such and such doing? Oh,
Yes,
you
yes.
remember this? And I used to do that and the thing."
Hmm.
And you're like, "Okay, all
They're
right,
living
you know,
vicariously through you because I miss it.
you know."
Now, and the flip side though is I've seen also people that do that who really are great leaders, and they can duplicate themselves in their training staff, and they can actually scale themselves out and have a greater impact and do it well. And I think that that like is, it doesn't happen all the time, but when it's done well, it's a really beautiful thing to watch someone who moves through that, because they're actually called to be a manager and called to be a leader and called to lead on a different level and scale out their business, and they could do it in a way where they can um, basically do that well. So I think that it's not that that is a lower calling, and you're not saying that, but
Mm-mm.
like when you know what you're called to do and you do it, you can go that route, and you can see how everyone becomes an expression of that leader, and
Mm-hmm.
it's really fun to watch. Like, I'm a real student of leadership, and when that stuff happens, I'm like good on you, right?
Yeah, yeah. You have to listen to the voice, the little voice that we have a tendency sometimes to suppress. We push it down and we're like, shh, quiet.
Yes.
Shh, I'm not talking to you right now. Just be quiet,
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we keep doing that. And I'm a huge, again, I'm a believer of the universe kind of sends you signs, and nothing happens before it's time. And again, I'm
Right.
cliches here and there, left and right, but I think sometimes we
Yes.
don't always follow our signs
Right.
when they come.
Yeah.
And
Right.
we veer off into the wrong path, and they were like, "Oh, but why did this happen to me?" And a thing, and you're like, "Yeah, well,
Mm-hmm.
not that it's anyone's fault, but you're like, well, should you have gone that way?" And
Yeah.
sometimes
It's kind of our
the
fault.
decision isn't always, it's not always easy. The
No,
point is
no.
sometimes the right decision isn't always the easy one. That's the
Right.
truth.
Yes.
That's all.
Exactly.
That's all. So,
Yeah.
you do what you can
No.
do.
Right. Exactly. They're cliches because there's an ounce of truth in them, right? Like that's how they last.
Yeah.
We
Yes.
just,
Yes.
yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, yes, I'm just reading that every shift I've made has happened because, yes, exactly, because I listened. And that's so true, right? Like, it was just listening to ourselves. And I've said it this way, is that like that shift comes by a whisper while the rest of the world is yelling at us, right? So we need to kind of tune in to listen to that whisper amongst all the noise, right? So that's tough. It's tough. It takes bravery. It takes focus. It takes dedication. It takes a whole lot of things to make those shifts boldly, right?
It does. But fear is a fear. And then when you have people in your ear, when I became a trainer, it wasn't something I planned. It's something I literally fell into.
Okay.
And I always tell people, I was like, this industry, it happened to me.
Mm.
This wasn't on my radar. I'm
Yes.
like, I went to college for 4 years. I didn't go to college to be a trainer. Like, you know.
Yeah. What'd you
But
go to college
then,
for?
believe it or not, I have a liberal arts degree in Spanish and a study in concentration in African American studies.
Wow.
And
Okay.
then I was trying to figure things out, and I had wanted to go into communications, but then I ended up doing this instead. Like, I had worked at Boston.com. I worked at the Globe for a while, and then I was working at WGBH, and communications is my love. It's another passion of mine. In an ideal
Yeah.
world, I would combine both worlds, like
Yes.
training with like kind of what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't happen that way for me. And it's not saying that it can't happen for me, but it is a passion of mine. In an ideal world, I think to myself, oh, I wish I had figured that out a lot sooner. Um,
Yes.
but, I fell into this. I left Channel 2. I was already at the sports club. And I said I would just personal train part-time, because it was a
Mm-hmm.
hobby. It wasn't supposed to
Yes.
become a career choice.
Hmm.
And then lo and behold, that's exactly what it was. A year went by. I said I'd give it a year before I looked for a job. And I said, okay. And then another year rolled around, and I tell the story all the time. But then, a friend and I, we had a heart to heart, and she was like, you don't procrastinate. There must be something there. You should really take a look at this and see why it is it's taking you
Mm.
so long to move on.
Yes.
And so it was at around then that I decided that I was going to give this a real go and see what I could do with it. And I've been doing it ever since.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good for you, right? Like, and there's
Yeah.
that does take courage because like it's like when you're gonna get a real job, right? Like,
Exactly.
yeah.
I was like, It's like, yeah, this is, my little thing. I'm just gonna do this for a little while. I'm gonna, chill a bit and
Hmm.
see what's in store for me, and
Yeah.
and then when I made a serious decision to stick with it, I was like, oh boy, okay, here we go now. I gotta put my big girl pants on and just get serious with it, and that's
Yes.
exactly what I did.
Right. Did you have any fear that you would lose your joy when your hobby became your job?
Yes, that was why I didn't take it seriously. That's why I said there's no way I'm making this a job. I'm gonna end up hating this. Oh, I
Hmm.
felt that. I felt that 120%. I was like, this is gonna
Really?
be awful.
Yeah.
Anytime you turn something you enjoy into like a job and you gotta make money and a living, because they always say, do what you love and you never work a day in your life. I said, that's not true. I was like, that's not true.
Yeah.
I was like, you know, but then, like I said, at some point, I just I flipped the switch in my mind, and I made up in my mind, like my mother would say, you make up in your mind you're gonna do. And I decided, and I remember the question of, where do you see yourself? What do you want to do here? I said, I want to be one of your best trainers.
Hmm.
And I heard that
Good.
echo in my mind, and I meant it. And I was like, okay, you know what? And from then, I was driven. That's what I was gonna do. And I did exactly that. And
Yes.
and I didn't look back. I said failure is not an option, and I moved forward. And
Yes.
it was hard too. I can't lie. Like social life, there wasn't one. There's just all kinds of things. But
That's real talk, right?
it's real.
Like,
I'm keeping it.
yeah.
I'm being
Yeah.
honest. Like
Yeah.
anything worth having, you're gonna have to work for it. It doesn't just
Of
come. The door
course.
doesn't open and come through. I mean, and I made a decision for it, and I had to sacrifice, but I
Hmm.
did what I wanted to do. So.
And what was the definition of best? Was it like top sales, top performance, top productivity, those
All of that,
metrics?
all of
Yeah.
that, all of that, all of that, all of that. Yes, all of that.
Yeah.
And I was hitting numbers, and then like you said, you get the promotions, and then you end up being like the higher tier trainer. And then, because that was one of my goals, I said I want to work less and make more.
Yes.
And then I was able to do that. And then
Right.
I could actually have a life, because it was hard. It was being social was difficult. There was and there's a lot that went into it.
Hmm.
And I'm working crazy hours right now, 12, 14-hour days.
Yes.
I mean, I'd be up for 6 a.m.s, and
Hmm.
I could be there till like 7, 7:30, sometimes 8 o'clock. I mean,
Yes.
and all of it. And I was
Why?
exhausted. I was exhausted. It was exhausting. And I
This
was a
is
hot
like
mess.
this is
I
flashbacks for me. Like
was a
honestly,
hot
Laura, like
mess.
that that is like such a flashback for me because I remember when like I started at Lifetime when they opened their first Canadian location, right?
Hmm.
So myself and my colleague here, Andrew, we were staff right from day one, and I was assistant manager. He was a manager there in different capacities. So we always reminisce about the grind there. And as soon as you started to say that about the going late and waking early, I remember working so late. At the end of the day, I made a tea, put it in my little coffee cup, whatever. So I made my tea while I was doing some admin because we're just trying to open up and grinding, and then leaving late, getting back in my, go to my car, go home, wake up early, get back to work, and my tea wasn't cold yet. Like the gap between when I left and when I came back was such that my tea was still like not fully cold. Like it was still somewhat warm because there was such a small gap. Our days were
Hmm.
like 16,
Hmm.
20 hours sometimes because we're just that morning grind, just trying to get the building open. And then you stay in that cadence of like long days trying to be, like you just get caught up in that, right? For,
You do.
Yeah.
For years. For years.
Yeah.
Yeah, years. Years. And you're like, the greater good, the greater. You're like, what am I doing now?
Yes.
What am I doing now? I mean, and we used to have this lounge, and we would all sleep in this lounge.
Yes.
And you would go in, and there would be the snoring, and me included. There'd be
Yeah.
the whole snoring situation.
Yeah.
But it was like, it was what we did. And I
Yes.
remember like a few weeks in, I remember one of the more senior trainers saying to me, and he saw me in there and he was sleeping. He's like, uh-huh. He's like, you really got it now. You're really a trainer now. And I was like, oh my God, you're killing me. Like
Hmm.
I can't function. Like this is incredible. And that was the thing. You see your clients, you run upstairs, and then you go in the lounge and you take a nap. And then you go back downstairs, you run back upstairs, you take a nap, you roll out the towel, and you just put your feet up. We had a TV in there, put our feet up, we eat, and just knock out, and then that was
Yeah.
it, and then we'd start again. Like that was the routine, that was the
For
norm.
years. Yeah.
No, for years. I did
Yeah.
it for years, and that's what I was working for. I said, one of these days I'm not gonna have to do this.
Hmm.
And that's the point I got to. I was like, I'm not gonna do this forever. There's no way.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, so those numbers were important for
Man.
me.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
numbers were important. I was like, no, we're not gonna do this. And that's when I was like, I'm hitting this number, I'm hitting that number, I want this many people. But then
Yes.
you burn yourself out getting to that point,
Hmm.
and you're seeing, and I don't know if anyone understands this, a 40-hour work week is normal for a lot of people. But let me just say, anything over 30 hours for a personal trainer, you
Yes.
are suffering.
Yes.
Because you got to understand, you're physically moving for 30 plus hours. It's
Yes.
not a desk job. So,
Hmm. Yes. Those
but at
car
any rate,
sleeves. Yes. Those car sleeves, man. Like as Joel's talking about. Yep.
man, but at any rate, I don't miss it. I'm not gonna
No.
lie. But the Pilates, I love the Pilates because the Pilates, I could kind of go in, and it was quiet.
Yes.
And because it's all this inward focus. It's like, okay, think about what you're doing. I didn't have to talk so much. Think about what you're doing. And then
Yes.
maybe I'd put my hands on you. I'm like, all this man, you're like, okay, I'll move you,
Yeah.
I'll move you. I speak a couple words and I just walk around. And
Right.
it was,
For yourself, right? Like, you're helping yourself now at that moment. Yes.
yes, if I'm being honest, yes.
Yes.
It's true. I'm keeping it real. Like
Yeah.
if anyone wants a glimpse into the world of being a trainer and instructor, it's real. It's true.
It's real. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there's something about that. Like I don't miss those days for that grind, but the same, there's that sense of pride almost that like I hustled that hard, that you hustled that hard at one point. So you understand and appreciate what you have now and what it took to get there and what real grind looks like, right? Like,
Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
yes.
You definitely you appreciate it for. And then on top of that, so um when they recruited me at the Sports Club LA, what is now Equinox, when they recruited me to go into Pilates, and then those were the days where we had to travel back and forth to New York for that. Like
Yes, yes.
we did the initial certification in Boston because we had an instructor in the building who was able to
Trained by
certify
Ramona. Okay.
for the basic, right? But then
Hmm.
after that, and we all kind of tested out of that very quickly because there were like 5 or 6 of us in the building. So we all kind of worked together as a team. Like we would
Yes.
practice together, we would
Yeah, it's
practice on
fun.
each other. It
Yeah.
was nice, right? It was
Hmm.
it was so easy, and then we do these cool group workouts. You couldn't tell us we weren't cute, but that's another story. So, we all do the synchronized thing because it looks really good when
Of
everyone's
course.
synchronized on
Yeah,
all
it
the
looks tight.
reformers,
Yeah.
and oh
Yeah.
yeah, it's nice, right?
Yeah.
So then we were going back and forth to New York, and that's when it got real. It was just like, oh my God, it was like taking 2 o'clock buses out of South Station to New York and
Yes.
coming back again, and then turn around, and then you come back in the morning, 6 a.m. I mean, I don't know how I did it. I mean, you'd be on the bus and legs will be hanging off the side of the seat, and you're trying to get sleep, and then you get to New York City at 6 a.m., 7 a.m. in the morning. The studio will open at 7, and then you would literally be standing all day,
Yes.
all day, And then you would sit down to eat lunch because you go downstairs, you go get your lunch, you come back up again. So you have an hour and you're like, oh, I just want to sit. If I could just sit for an hour, I just need to sit for an hour. And then you get right back up again, and 7 to 7. 7 when the studio opened, 7 when the studio closed.
Bell
And
to
then I,
bell.
and then I turn
Dog.
around, go back to Boston first thing in the morning, and then I have a client at 6 a.m.
Yes.
It was nasty. Like I laugh now. It wasn't funny.
No.
It wasn't even funny. It wasn't funny. It wasn't funny. It wasn't funny. But I did it. And
No, you're gonna need a nap after this conversation, just talking about like.
I mean, honestly, I might just go in the studio and get on a reformer just for old time's sake.
That's it.
I might just go in there.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, so creative contour by Carla, that's exactly it. Like I think for me too, that's probably where I was looking for earlier. The celebration of discipline. Like I look back at that, like I was disciplined. Like there is no excuses, up at it, and doing your best to give your seventh client of the day as good a workout as your first client of the day. Like doing your best to keep that quality up because you have some pride in your work. Like discipline is the word. Discipline is the word.
You know what they say about discipline? Discipline really is is self-care. It's just it's a very
Yes,
strict idea of it, but that's really what discipline is if you really, at least for
sure.
me, that's what it means. But yeah, like I decided this was going to be my craft. And again, I wanted to be good at it and I wanted to take care of people, and I knew this was the way that I was going to do it. And
Yes,
so I made up in my mind that's what I was going to do. Period.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Now, and so when we start talking about self-care, that's easy when you have the luxury of time, resources. There's not that sense of grinding to get something done. I need to make money. I need to get to the next level. I need to, you know what I mean? So it's instead of just talking self-care and, book yourself a massage and use your benefits to go to physiotherapy for your back, what would self-care look like in that context that you're just talking about, this bell to bell world? Because that's a different conversation.
Yeah, for me, if I'm being honest with you, one of the biggest challenges that I have is always being on the clock.
Okay.
Always being on the clock. And this is where, and I talked about it lightly, but this is where good quality sleep comes in with me. Like I'm always fearful that I'm going to miss a client. I'm always fearful that I'm going to be late. I'm always, you know what I mean? Like timing is everything.
Yes.
And that's always something in the back of my mind, subconscious. That's always something that I'm worried about. And so for me, self-care means not being worried about being on the clock. Like it's hard for me to be
Yes.
like this week to be like, okay, do I need to be somewhere? Am I forgetting something? Even though I
True.
write everything down and I put everything in my calendar. That's why I say for me it's important just to be like, if I feel like doing it, I'm doing it. If I don't, I won't.
Yes.
And not apply that pressure of I have to be somewhere. And that's a big deal for me
I
because
hear
that
that.
has a huge effect on me, and I'm well aware of it, because
Yes.
that's a reflection, right? It's like, okay, if she doesn't show up on time or if she's a little late, then that means, that's a direct reflection on what I'm capable of or whether I can be trusted, or it just means so much. So
Yes.
that's one big thing I would say, what it looks like for me. So yeah, everything else is important that you said too,
Yes.
but that's a big one for me.
Absolutely. I hear you. Because I just expanding on that point, if I go from, or if you go from an 8 o'clock client, a 9 o'clock client, 10 o'clock client, and on vacation, you're like, okay, 8 o'clock, I'm getting my nails done. 9 o'clock, I have a massage. 10 o'clock, I'm meeting a friend for coffee. It doesn't matter what the 8, 9, and 10 are. You're still slaved to the time
Mhm.
slot.
Mhm. That's true.
So you need
Yeah.
to
So
liberate yourself from that structure for that time.
and it's
I hear you.
difficult. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it is, and you don't realize it. You're like, you know what you just did? You just did the same thing. You put yourself on a schedule, you
Back on the
know?
schedule.
So right now I have nothing definitively planned, but in my mind I think maybe I'll do this, maybe I'll do, I don't know, depends on how I feel.
Hmm.
Mm, yeah. So,
Yes.
I'm trying to be
Yes.
loose and free with it, even though it's not easy for
Yes.
me. So
I can appreciate this. I'm sure everyone listening appreciates the struggle in that, because when you said that, I'm just like, oh, that'd be so nice. So like, like because we
right?
get it, right? It resonates. What do you have planned? Nothing. Really? Like nothing, nothing? Like what do you mean nothing? Like you mean nothing. Like,
Yep.
yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I have ideas, but whether I do them or not, I don't know. Maybe,
Yes.
maybe not. Mm. So, yeah.
Nice. Do you journal? Are you a person who like captures your thoughts in that way?
No, I do not. I
Hmm.
ask my clients to journal though, but I don't.
Okay.
Not because it's a bad idea, just because honestly, I try to do other things that kind of set my mind free. Like,
Hmm.
I'm a huge person of Duolingo for all you guys out there who want to learn another language. I'm just throwing that out.
Okay.
So I decided to learn French because a friend of mine, she's been using it for, I don't know, all year actually. And she was telling us about it when we did a Zoom girls' night. And I was like, oh, Duolingo. I've always wanted to learn French. I'm like, where was this when I need to learn Mandarin and a whole bunch of other languages? I said, you know what? I'm just going to pick a language, and I chose French, and I'm going to learn. So right now that sets my mind free. Like at the end of the night, that's something I
Yes.
just sit on and play with and try to learn a couple of words in French.
Huh.
It's easy. It's like a game, actually.
Yeah. Well, I think
Yeah.
just even the higher level of just listening as something to bring your brain, use a different part of your brain, ultimately, is what
Yeah.
you're doing.
Mhm. Yeah. Always learning. I like to learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in this case, it's something fun, and I try to choose something that's going to interest me,
Yes.
and something that's not too heavy if I can
Hmm.
help it.
Yes. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
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 And when you were saying earlier, like, the self-care is not a luxury, it's a necessity.
Yeah. It is a necessity. You know, we're conditioned, and I feel like here to believe that because we want to do something for ourselves that we're being selfish. And
Hmm.
we have so many obligations, I believe, on the day to day, which is why sometimes we ignore the little voice,
Right.
right? But I don't think it's being selfish. I think sometimes you have to take care of yourself so you can continue to give back to others. And I mean,
Yes.
if you can't give to yourself, like really, like, is something
Hmm.
wrong there? And like you don't have to be a martyr. There's no reason for that. Like,
Yes. Well,
you know what I mean?
yes, I agree with you, but I feel like as a man, when I say you need to take that time and you need to care for yourself and those things, then I feel like there's this that comes back to me. Well, as a mom, that's hard. As a woman, that's hard. You know what I mean? Like they start, not that people throw that back at me, but I feel like I can't just throw that out without being sensitive to the fact that when you're wearing your different hats, those different hats have a different expression for every person. So I'm a dad, I have kids, a blended family, all these different things. That's one thing, but a mom may have another layer of mom guilt there. Or, you know what I mean? Like there's different things that have to come into place. So I can't just throw, just take the day off. Just, you know what I mean? Like, well, like what are those factors that make it difficult for us to actually exercise self-care?
It's funny that you mention it, and that's very true. It's very, very true. Again, think about how we're socialized. But, I only say this because I had one mom. I've trained many, many, many people. And I had one mom in particular who said to me once, she said that she made time for herself and she took time for herself. And her mother was the same way. And she said, I have to. She said, because if I don't take time for myself, I can't give back to them. I'm not going to be able to give the same way. And if I have a little time, which is why she would make the time. And let me be clear, I understand that not everyone has the finances to hire a personal trainer or a Pilates instructor or but she they work with her and they help her and they work together. And, you know, her husband would know it was her time to come see me, and they would make arrangements and work together to allow
Yes.
her the hour or the hour and a half it would take her to go and come back. And
Yes.
so, yes, I understand that it's hard. No, I don't have my own children, but I've worked with many, 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 many mothers, and I've seen the extremes. And, you know, I always say, if you even have 5 minutes to sit and do a meditation, or if you could ask them to work with you and help you, and you'd be amazed that everything is a team effort. And when you
Well
address
said.
these things sometimes with people, you know, you'd be amazed at how much willing they are to help you, knowing it's going to help them. If they can see the positive, as they say in sales, right? If you can see the value, then people are
Yes.
more likely to do it, right? So if
Yes.
people see you're happier, you're giving more, you're doing more. And I understand that's difficult. There are different cultures, there are different ways of
For
doing
sure.
it. I realize that. But, you know, you're right. I understand that because, like I said, I've worked with different mothers
Hmm.
and you know, but I mean, yeah, I mean, I understand. I do get it. So
Yeah.
easier said than done.
Easier said than done, but what you just the line that you said in there is probably going to be my retort from now on. Everything is a team effort.
It is. It is. It really is. And there's no reason why you can't pull people in and say, I need your help with this. If you're one of those people, I used to be one of those people who doesn't like to ask for help. No person is an island. Like you don't know unless you ask. You don't know unless you try, you know. And sometimes you have to ask because people cannot read your mind. And you're walking around upset. I say this all the time. You're upset and resentful of people because nobody knows what you're thinking. Nobody can read your mind. So sometimes you gotta reach out and say, hey, I'm stuck here. Like, can you help me
Yeah.
a little bit?
Yeah.
You know, and that leads into a whole lot of other areas too. You know, that goes with not just there, but so much more. So,
Absolutely. And if we could lead in this area, everything else starts to fall in place because you have a template and you have a
yeah,
pattern. And
right.
you can get over that fear of someone saying no when you ask for help too,
Yeah,
right? You know,
yeah,
like you can get over your own pride of actually asking for help and recognize that that's empowering, right? And all those things that come from that. So yeah, like I love that line just about it being a team effort. I think that that's really where it comes down to is like get your team around you, get your supports around you.
you know, and for me that's a big deal too, because when someone comes to me and says, you know, they want to shed some weight and they want to tone up and they want to get to a certain point, that's important actually. That's
Yes.
valuable because you know how many people, same thing, you know, your mom, your wife, or whomever, and I say women, but they'll go, but you know, my husband eats differently, my
Yes.
children eat differently, everyone eats
Hmm.
differently,
Hmm.
and I said, well, do you have family meetings? Do you discuss what you're eating beforehand? And then the ones who are successful, are the ones who actually sit down and they do have a meeting or they talk
Yes.
to their spouse and significant other and they say, you
Hmm.
know, I'm trying to do this thing and I would like to do A, B, and C. And it's good because even my own husband will come to me and if I say to him, honey, I have a specific goal, I want to do A, B, and C, like he doesn't do much, but he'll poke his head and be like, yeah, you doing this thing? And I'm
Hmm.
like, man. And then I look around, I was like, you really just came in here and checked me. Like,
Yes.
like you're not supposed to do that. But
Right.
he does that. Like he does,
Right.
it's very subtle. It's not a big,
No, it's not
you
not
know.
condemning. It's just
No, he's like, did you do that thing? Are you doing that thing? And then I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do it now. Let me go. And
right. So
so,
for all the husbands out there, you gotta ease in there, like come real low if you're gonna be
yeah, under the
heard. Yeah,
radar,
yeah,
under the
under the
radar,
radar.
under
Yes.
the radar. You're like, you know. He's like, are you gonna do that thing today? And I'm like, yes, I'm gonna do it today. Like, and knowing good and well I hadn't planned on it. Like, no, I had myself
Right.
set for something else. But since you
Right.
brought it up, you know. But yeah, but you know,
Right.
but he'll say the same thing to me. He's like, don't let me do that. Like, come in here, circle back. And I'm
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
okay.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Go team.
yeah. You
That's
know,
how we.
there's no speech, there's no conversation we have, but
Mm.
it's you know, it's there.
Yeah. It's there. Nice. Love that. That's super fast. We're at 56 already. Like it just flies by in all these conversations. I love
Hmm.
that team effort thing. The self care is so important, and it was fun reflecting on our grind, no stop era. Man,
Yeah.
that brought me back. That brought me back, man. Like that's it's so funny that I appreciate that, and I appreciate the discipline of those moments that bring us to this place right now where we can elect how much energy we're going to put into things, and I probably this is when I start to say this line too. Your work is only as good as your rest,
Yes, this is
right?
true. Hmm.
Your work is only as good as your rest, and I say that line a lot, and I look back on those times where like, hey, if I was actually to pause for a moment to recover a little bit more, I probably would have been more productive at the end of the day than if I hadn't gone 8 clients in a row and then admin and then my tracking and then, you know what I mean? Like whatever, it had to, all that stuff. So it's so funny how we learn that and we apply it and we get wiser as we go, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's true. I look at it, but you're a good one because let me tell you, I would block them. And then I would have, I don't know if you've ever done this, it would be 10 client days. And oh, I like near the end of the day, I want to cry. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I see my schedule, and you just schedule. You don't think about it
You throw
sometimes.
them
You just
in and
schedule. Yeah, you
yes,
just throw them in, and then you look at your schedule, and you're like, oh, what was I thinking? Like,
yeah,
oh
yeah,
wow, like how am I gonna get through my day? And those are the days where you hit the espresso shots, and you try to
yes,
eat as much as you can, and you
yes.
like.
Have like almonds in your pocket.
Yeah, yeah, yes. Oh my God, I forgot about that. You walk around with snacks. You're like,
Yep,
I gotta, you know what I mean? But yes.
yep.
But
Okay, I'm gonna sit in the
those are
corner
the
and just like
days.
rock myself now. Just like,
I
just
know.
like again.
Like unfortunately, I can't be there to say there.
Yes.
It's gonna be okay. But yeah,
Whew.
yeah, it's true.
Yes.
But that was then. This is now. It was part of the
This is
process
now.
to get
Yes.
you where you are now. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Where can we follow you? What do you have going on? Like, how can we
Uh,
support your business?
follow me on Instagram, Laura's Bare Fitness. I'm the same on Facebook, Laura's Bare Fitness. Spread the word. I post workouts. I post a little bit of Pilates and I post workouts. I try to at least twice a week
Hmm.
for people, which are free, so people can save them and have some stuff to do. I also always welcome people to ask me questions. But that's the best way to do it, is just to follow me and share me with other people. Some of my posts and my workouts, the
Yes.
more the merrier. I'm happy to meet new people. I've made some great connections like you and
Yes.
on this during this pandemic. And actually I have so many silver linings to all the crazy that's been going on, and this
Yes.
is one of them. So I'm happy to
No
meet new
doubt.
people and
Yes.
meet any of you out there. Feel free, ask me questions. I'm
Absolutely.
here. That's what I do.
Sweet. All right. Thank you so much. I will send you the replay from this and we'll keep the conversation going. Thank you so much, Laura. It's been
Yeah,
so fun.
thank you, Martin. It's been a
Yeah,
pleasure. I was
absolutely.
happy to do this.
Nice. So thank you. I appreciate you taking time out of your vacay. So enjoy the rest of your staycation and we'll stay in touch.
All right. Thank you. Take care. Have a
Awesome.
great
Thank
day.
you.
All
Thanks.
right.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye,
See ya.
all.